So we have witnessed the Star Trek approaches to time travel over the course of this month in numerous forms. Travel from the present to the past to restore the present. Travel from the future to the present to fix the future. And travel in a circle in the present over and over again until we get the damn thing right. Relativity's approach to mucking with time this week is... all bets are off. This week, time is like a deluxe model sex bot. It exists only to be screwed in every imaginable way. This was the last story written by Nick Sagan, son of famous speaker of the word billions, Carl Sagan. As the last story, it makes it obvious with what his theme is, namely, I don't give a shit. That is Relativity in 5 words or less. It is an episode so brazen about its own silliness, inconsistencies, and general skull-fucking of common sense that you can't help but be amused and maybe even slightly respect it. Like a man who would dress like a duke and stride up the road knowing that everybody else thinks he looks like an idiot and just not caring. Relativity is completely aware of and totally nonplussed about how ridiculous it is. And therein lies its charm. After a shot of Utopia Planitia at the beginning, we discover Voyager still in dry dock, with Janeway ready to assume command.
Voyager may not be as big as a Galaxy-class ship, but she's quick and smart. Like her captain.
And of course, devoid of a soul.
I've been buried in Voyager's schematics for the past 3 months. I could walk the corridors blindfolded.
You know, in case anyone tries that mutiny trick with me I used on Captain Presley. If only he knew how to walk around the ship blindfolded. As they discuss the ship and the upcoming mission, the subject turns to Tom Paris. The Admiral is hesitant, so Janeway will have to resort to seduction.
But everybody deserves a second chance.
I still know how to do that trick with the marshmallow peeps. As she checks out her bridge, we spot 2 unexpected things. 7 of 9 somehow years before she ever joined the crew, and, even more surprising, that she's wearing clothes. Wonder how they managed to get that past the execs. What's 7 up to? How could she be here? The questions demand answers, but like I said, our theme this week is... I don't give a shit! So having established that we are in the past for the purposes of the plot, the episode says... those questions can wait. Let's just continue to muck about here in the past for no reason whatsoever. So Janeway and the Admiral talk things over and check in on the EMH, just so the writers could indulge themselves. Eventually we get around to the 7 plot when she has a run-in with none other than Lieutenant Carey. Oh, so good to see you again ever since the last time that we saw you on the show and just stopped seeing you for no reason. I mean, he hasn't died, not yet anyway, and yet this is part of some weird theme of the show that seems to think that Carey's dead for some reason because they will only show him in the past. The next time we will finally see him in the present, I hate to give you the spoiler, but they're going to kill him. It's almost as if the writers said, he's not dead? I thought for sure we killed him off. Didn't you kill him off? No, I didn't kill him off. Well, now we've got to kill him off. We all assumed he was, and now we got to do it. Anyway, the point is that he's not here in the present. He's here in the past part only. I mean, he's in this episode. Why not show him in the present to show he's still around? I mean, there's a lot of minor functions he could serve in the present for the script, but instead it's like he's showing up to say, hi, remember me? B'Elanna kicked my ass, and later I traded for some illegal tech to help get home because I love my family so damn much I won't let anything get between me and them.
I'm not a member of Voyager's crew. I'm on assignment here at Utopia Planitia.
Too bad. Well, next time I'm in the neighborhood, I'll drop by and say hello.
Except maybe that. Hope you're wearing latex contacts if you're going to keep eye-humping her like that, Lieutenant Family Man. 7 slips into one of the Jeffries tubes and finds some extremely deadly label makers thanks to her Borgle vision. But her actions draw some attention from everyone's favorite ogling unperson and his new boss.
As you were, Lieutenant. I've been looking forward to getting my hands dirty.
And since the Admiral's out of marshmallow peeps, it's my only chance. But the door is sealed from the inside. Ooh, this sounds dangerous. Hey, you know what sounds like a really stupid idea? How about if the captain and the old guy crawl through the Jeffries tubes to go and look at this personally instead of sending in the security officers? Well, this will mean potential pollution of the timeline, so they're going to have to do a temporal beam out right now. It's the safest move. For history, the safest move for history. For 7, it's fatal. Luckily, the boss is taking it well. You know, Lieutenant, I could play all day in my green cathedral. He wants to recruit Seven again, even though it offers profound risk, like dropping dead on the pad. And sure enough, Seven is having some sensory aphasia bothering her. Back on Voyager where everything's normal. She's alive, unharmed, and wearing something that only leaves something to the imagination if you're wondering what her kidneys look like. The doctor cures her, and just in time for Tom to invite her to be a partner for ping pong, since his original partner got space sickness, like regular sickness, but in space. And it seems like he's not the only one who's ill. Doctor? You know how Harry said not to fly Voyager into that temporal rift under any circumstances? And I did it anyway to prove I'm still the captain? And you remember how Chakotay said messing with those dodos would pollute the time stream and I shouldn't do it under any circumstances? And I did it anyway to prove I was still the captain? And you remember how I swiped those dodo eggs and you said not to eat them under any circumstances? Remember that? Well, for no related reason, I have a funny tummy now. At the ping pong match, where Neelix is scorekeeping because he must get involved in every damn thing that happens, and having no agility whatsoever means that all that's left is counting the points and acting proud of himself for not having to take his shoes and socks off to do so. That's when Tom pulls a trick shot. No, a real trick shot. Something's happening with the flow of time, a matter of grave concern to everyone. Everyone is not a complete imbecile. And after they identify the cause of both this and the space sickness going around, he contacts the doctor to say that someone in the mess hall is violently ill, also known as every day of the doctor's life. Well, the doctor arrives for this emergency, only to find everything's well, right up until the guy collapses from a case of super-duper double dog space sickness, and the doctor realizes that sickbay is actually running further ahead in time than the mess hall, and indirectly indicating that it took Neelix 7 minutes of watching this guy passed out on the table before he realized something might be wrong. He's really Captain Observation today, isn't he? Well, things seem to be getting worse.
Before you say anything, let me remind you what happens to bearers of bad news.
How can he forget? He still hasn't gotten the blood out of 3 of his uniforms. He reports that there are problems all over the ship now.
Maybe that explains why this coffee tastes like it's 3 days old.
And here's a cigarette butt floating in it. Or maybe I just grabbed the wrong mug. Better finish it off just to make sure. They track the source to the area where Seven was at the start of the episode to find the thingy, and discover the same readings that Janeway had when she came here while at Utopia Planitia. These signals show up after 2 guys beam into the hallway and nab Seven. And then Voyager blows up. So if you're keeping score, that's now 4 ships this month that have all faced some form of annihilation because of temporal hijinks. The only one to survive on the first try, though, was the Defiant. But then it's a tough little ship. Certainly tougher than Voyager, which, let's face it, looks like someone strapped some nacelles onto an odor eater. Seven's aboard that ship she died on already, called the Federation time ship Relativity, with Captain Braxton in command. They say the explosion was caused by some kind of thing that fractured space-time being placed on board. They say they have no idea who did it. I mean, the list of people Voyager's pissed off is actually longer than the list of people Voyager's actually met. You see why the guys need every edge they can get, huh? So Seven is recruited to help since her optical implant can see things that are masked by space-time warp nonsense, and she is familiar with Voyager too. So she's given training to understand the different things that happen, like the Dali paradox, named after Salvador Dali because of his famous melting clock picture, to describe when time slows down until it seems like it stops, like every visit to my in-laws.
The Pogo paradox.
A causality loop in which interference to prevent an event actually triggers the same event.
I admit I like the naming of that one. It comes from an old comic strip called Pogo. For Earth Day, they showed what happened when you have so much litter in the woods that you can't even enjoy it anymore. And the closing was a riff on that old line, "We have met the enemy and he is ours." Their version was, "We have met the enemy and he is us. We caused the very thing we want to avoid. We are our own worst enemy." And speaking of which, the discussion turns to Captain Janeway.
Your captain has a knack for sticking her nose where it doesn't belong, especially when it comes to time travel. She's reckless. She has no regard for the integrity of the timeline.
Once shot a man just for snoring in his sleep.
I asked for her help once. She refused. And I ended up stranded in the late 20th century.
I could only survive by working as the comic relief pilot on MacGyver. And such a thing would naturally require anyone to undergo years of therapy. Now, you might be saying, "Hey, I remember that. This guy shouldn't remember any of that stuff at all." To which I can only remind you of the theme for this episode, remember? Yes, you can add continuity to the list. I mean, you can stretch ways to explain this stuff away, but there are a lot of them. From the egregious like Braxton here, to the fact that Voyager didn't have a mess hall in dry dock. You'd have better luck making a boat out of a colander than trying to plug all the holes in this episode. Point is, Braxton doesn't want Janeway screwing this up. They need to minimize any possible damage to the timeline. With that in mind, Seven, here's your equipment. We've integrated it into similar looking devices to those of the period, so that it won't arouse any suspicion. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm kidding, of course. Lose any of this stuff and cloned Hitler will be Emperor of the Federation. I'm just warning you. So Seven is sent back in the middle of a battle with the Kazon, one of the likely times that the saboteur will strike. But the field is again the same as the readings that Janeway had in dry dock.
It's a chronoton flux, 0.003.
Any idea what's causing it?
Not yet.
It could perhaps be something that can wait until we're not being shot at, Captain. Actually, no. Janeway leaves the unimportant job of fighting for their lives to Chakotay so that she can look over the readings. And when they finally escaped, it takes Tuvok to investigate. Seven's found, and her being here again after Utopia Planitia, not to mention her having Borg implants, well, makes Janeway suspect that she's the bad guy here. But Seven can try to talk to her. She told Branston before that Janeway would be a vital ally in his efforts to preserve the time stream.
I don't care if history itself comes unraveled. I want to know why you're on my ship.
Stockholm Syndrome, huh? Ain't it a bitch? So, no other choice but to pimp slap causality to appease Janeway. Seven tells her all about the future, and eventually she agrees to help her pursue the real bad guy, only to discover it's Captain Braxton himself. Dun dun dun! It's at least a future version of him, because you see, after years of having to deal with Voyager, he's been driven insane, and so now he's going to blow up Voyager to prevent all that from happening. I know it's rough, buddy. I've been having to deal with Voyager for 13 years, and spiders! No, 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 no. You will not crawl into my ear and make me kill again, Spider. Not this time. Well, the Lieutenant reacts to this news by relieving Captain Braxton of duty, despite his pleas that he hasn't actually done anything wrong. The fact that he might someday do something wrong is enough to have him arrested. Wow. And I thought the NDAA was harsh. Well, okay, that's still harsher than this. Well, this ad hoc justice, or I suppose this anti-hoc justice, is done, and Braxton, who's actually doing something wrong, is about to escape. Well, Seven's going to have to return to an earlier time, when Voyager was in dry dock, where she's already trying to deal with the weapon that Braxton won't actually plant on the ship until 2 years later, and won't have explode until 3 years after that, which is why he's here right now. Why? Because this is Relativity, where there is nary a shit to be given. So why not head back to the present to interrupt the ping pong tournament?
Who are you?
Oh, for God's sakes, even in the future of the future, the guns are shit. You just shot an old man with it, and all that happened is he has a bad case of gas. In fact, jumping through time is more damaging than their frickin' weapons, because Seven collapses so that other Seven must wander over and wonder what to do. And clearly, the only way to resolve this paradox is for the two of them to start making out. Come on, right now. Well, they're going to have to recover and treat clothed Seven, so unclothed Seven will be left to pursue Braxton, the guy that they've already caught. But the Voyager crew has finally caught him, so now it's time to nab the criminal. No, the real criminal. Finally caught her, and she would have gotten away with it too if it weren't for that meddling kid and his dog bear cat.
I get the feeling I'm about to be drafted.
In exchange for leniency, Captain.
No leniency. I want full immunity, witness protection, one of those cool Nick Pileggi books about me. Oh, you mean leniency for Braxton? Of course. Yeah, he's the man you want. And I heard he ate some dodo eggs too, you monster. They're drafting Janeway because they need her to capture Braxton, the guy they've already actually captured. Twice. Jesus. Braxton's turned into a Pokemon. Gotta catch them all, Captain. So Janeway gets sent back to when Braxton first arrives, despite another Janeway running around the same ship trying to captain it. Damn, I have a fine ass. Would the universe explode if I... Come on, I could just rock on a back porch all night. But she catches him, and all is well.
Captain, Braxton was right about one thing. Voyager shows up on our sensors far too often. Try to avoid time travel.
Oh, absolutely. I promise. Jackass. Post-episode follow-up. Stupid Neelix moment was that ping pong thing. Nope, I don't do the thinking. I only make notes of the ball hitting the floor. A Lazarus of the week, I guess, for the crew of Voyager getting blown up, but coming back because they were never blown up. Of course. Final score for Relativity is 8 out of 10. While I've slammed Voyager in the past for being stupid, this episode so crosses the line of stupid, it achieves its own warped sense of fun. That's all I can be said. And it was eerie that this episode and the Red Dwarf episode, Pete, with the ping pong ball gag, aired within about 6 weeks of each other. Almost as if they were tired of being parodied and decided to just parody themselves. And all their time travel cliches, of course. I think the only one they didn't have was trying to kill Braxton as a baby.
All hail the Overlord! All hail the Overlord!
I'm afraid.